Delta Force Hawk Ops is finally playable in the US. This is a Chinese-developed Battlefield/Call of Duty/extraction shooter mishmash FPS. It's free to play, and to be honest, it's quite good, especially considering the price point. Heck, it's pretty solid regardless of the price point, but at a free-to-play title, it's going to be a real competitor to, well, the franchises that it's frankly stealing from. So if you were an FPS gamer back in the late 90s, you probably played Delta Force. Made by Nova Logic, a California-based studio, the Delta Force franchise had some really cool voxel tech that allowed it to simulate extremely long-range combat, which was unusual for FPS games of its time. The series did a great job of portraying more theatricalized combat scenarios like the Black Hawk Down movie. Fast forward 2.5 decades, and today it's, well, a bit different. Being developed by Team Jade and Timmy Studio Group, which is a subsidiary of Tencent, Delta Force has become an amalgamation of the most popular FPS games, very much taking a lot of Battlefield 2042's styling, map design, gameplay, and UI design, coupled with a lot of weapon animation, styling, and gunplay from Call of Duty. And loading up this game, being a lifelong Battlefield fan, it feels like I'm playing Battlefield. Sure, some of the mechanics feel a little bit stiff. It doesn't necessarily have that smooth acceleration and traversal that DICE has perfected within the Battlefield games, and some of the gunplay feels a bit wooden. But none of those things were severely detrimental. In fact, you wouldn't notice them unless you were intimately familiar with, say, Battlefield, and you just notice that the movement felt a little more stiff by comparison. Now, the multiplayer is running in Unreal Engine 4, and the graphics are good, comparable to a Call of Duty game for sure, and perhaps lagging behind the Battlefield franchise's visuals. That said, the performance is good. I was able to maintain a smooth frame rate at 4K resolution with DLSS, of course, and maxed out visuals. So, from an optimization standpoint, it seems to be in a pretty good spot, especially given that it's an alpha. There's currently 4 different class types in the game, but multiple operators can be assigned to each class, and each operator has some special gadgets that set them apart. And within those classes, you can then customize different loadouts and mess with your guns and all that stuff. It is very similar to 2042 in that respect. They even have a medic class with a healing gun that's basically identical to Falk. When it comes to the weapon customization, it looks a little bit more like the Call of Duty franchise, but it's very accessible and easy to use. You get unlocks quickly, and you can start refining your weapon performance right away, only after a few rounds. And jumping right into an attack and defend match, I felt right at home. All the controls, customization options were there that I wanted. There was barely any learning curve other than having to understand the gadgets. It was basically like playing a match of Battlefield, complete with all of the bots to fill up the servers. Hopefully the percentage of bots is higher at the moment than it will be at launch, due to this being a closed test. I'm not sure how many keys were actually distributed for this test, so am I playing on a packed server or much more empty servers compared to what it will be? Now, some of the differences that stood out right away are the aggressive spotting and highlighting, and just how easy the characters stand out from the environment. Lots of smoke and debris is in the game, but players can get easily spotted through that smoke, which makes it very easy to acquire your target. It also makes the gameplay feel a bit more arcadey than you would get from a Battlefield game. I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about the lack of visibility, let me just put it that way. Vehicles seem extremely powerful. That could be due to players not fully knowing how to fight against them quite yet. Even most Battlefield games launch with a lot of overpowered vehicles that tend to get put in their place once players figure out how to fight them better. But playing as a gunner on a tank and an APC and driving an APC, I was just a killing machine. It felt very easy to deploy smoke, back up, repair, and re-engage. Now, all the classes feel pretty good, especially the sniper, and that might be more map specific. It was very quick and easy to snipe with some kind of arcadey bullet drop and a large open map. I really had no trouble dropping just scores of players before they were even within striking distance. The other classes are almost all equally powerful, but in different ways, as you would expect. The medic can heal multiple teammates from a distance with their med gun gadget, which rapid fires multiple projectiles in a split second. Feels a bit overpowered if I'm being honest. The engineering class gets LMG SMGs that seem to outclass the assault rifles. The only class that feels a little on the weak side is the assault class itself, which generally speaking in Battlefield games has always been the most overpowered class. Their wrist rocket launcher and exoskeleton sprint ability just aren't that powerful or useful. Maybe they will be in other maps, but at least for this one they seem to be on the less useful side. Now there's also an entire extraction mode as well, and I mean it's basically Tarkov, but instead of going back to a menu between matches, you have a physicalized home base with facilities that you can upgrade for better stats and rewards when you play. It's also way more fleshed out than Battlefield 2042's Hazard Zone. That said, I don't really see it stealing the thunder of Tarkov or Arena Breakout, but again, it's free and it offers a decent additional side mode. I'll have to play it a bit more to kind of get my bearings on it. It boils down the gameplay from the hardcore extraction experiences to simpler stuff with more easy AI bots and a few enemy teams that you have to fight against. You loot, shoot, extract, and then do it all again after you play your gear Tetris in the inventory screen. Now at launch, it's also going to have a single player game, which puts it ahead of, honestly, Battlefield at this point. The campaign is following in the footsteps of past Delta Force games and will be returning to the Black Hawk Down mission scenario. In fact, they have the rights to the entire movie, and the campaign has been described as just being the Black Hawk Down movie, but in game form. They'll even be using cutscenes from the film. And honestly, it looks pretty cool, but also quite different stylistically from the multiplayer. The campaign will be running on Unreal Engine 5 to take advantage of Lumen and some of the other good visual upgrades, which is pretty interesting to see a game using two different versions of an engine for multiplayer and single player. Now, financially, I have no idea how this game's going to make a profit. There's going to be a premium tier to the game and seasonal pass stuff, plus some XP cards that will help you unlock stuff faster. But otherwise, it seems like you're just going to be able to play it for free and the operators won't be locked behind paywalls. I'm sure we're going to learn more about this as it gets closer to launch, which is slated for a Q1 2025 release. Honestly, I think it's going to be a fun game and a popular one if they can keep those servers online and figure out how to make a profit with it. But it really does seem like it's just poised to be a free-to-play Battlefield and kind of Tarkov-light experience. It's certainly more arcadey than Battlefield, so players wanting something that feels like a more authentic war game might not find it here. In fact, if the next Battlefield game really leans harder into the realistic visuals and gameplay, I think they'll stand apart more substantially. Still, a slightly arcadey Battlefield clone is going to be a popular game in my opinion, and I'm excited to play more of it. Have you guys gotten a chance to try out Delta Force Hawk Ops yet? Which of the modes most interest you? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to see just how much some of the assets in Delta Force are just straight up copying from other games, check out this video I made here. It's pretty interesting and worth a watch. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.